Could Trevis Gipson be in line for a big extension this season with the Chicago Bears? We're going to talk about that. Plus, Tremaine Edmunds really taking leadership of that defensive room, according to Coach Matt Eberflus. We're going to get to all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host here, Haize. If you want to follow me, you can do so at CEO Haize. That's CEO Haize. If you want to follow the show, you can do so at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform that we are on. But let's go ahead and get into it. So Mike Lombardo said over at theheavy.com that he's hearing rumblings that Trevis Gipson could be in line for a big extension. Now, Trevis Gipson has been one of those players that C-Dub, and Bobby have all kind of said, like, needs to perform big time. Because when you look at what the Bears could look to do out on the edge in the future, they have a young player in Dominique Robinson there and other things like that. It could be that we see Trevis Gipson not be retained. Now, there are reasons for Trevis Gipson and the arguments to be made for him. When you look at Trevis Gipson last season, this was according to Next Gen Stats, that he saw the fifth most double teams in the NFL last year. And so when you look at his production dropping down from the 7 sacks in 2021 to what it was in 2022, the lack of production on that defensive line overall definitely contributed to that. And the fact that we did not have a lot of players on that defensive line that were targets. And so the offensives were able to zero in on Trevis Gipson to stop him from getting to the quarterback. And when you look at the improvements that we made overall, bringing in DeMarcus Walker on the other side, having Andrew Billings there, Zach Pickens, Javon Dexter, Justin Jones still being there, right? The improvement overall that we've made on the defensive line, Trevis Gipson could be in line to benefit the most from it, right? Because if we're bringing in that pressure from the interior defensive line, which is why the 3-tech is one of the most important positions in a Matt Eberflus system, it could free things out on the edge for Trevis Gipson to really get to work again. And in this article, they also say that the Bears, if he has similar production to what he did in 2021, getting those 7 sacks, 7 tackles for a loss, 5 forced fumbles, right? That he could be in line for an extension. When you look also at that 2020 draft class, also a part of that, I talked about a lot of the other members of that draft class, and Trevis Gipson has the talent, right? Well, theoretically, we've seen glimpses of that talent from Trevis Gipson. It's all about him making it consistent this upcoming year, and if he does that, the Bears are probably going to be in line to give him some money, considering that also is a position of need. Him and Walker being on that edge, and hopefully the growth, Dominique Robinson moving back to more of a complementary piece, being that depth piece coming off the bench. But if that defensive line and the overall improvement there and in the defense as a whole, if Trevis Gipson gets back to what he looked like in 2021, the fact that he's in line for an extension doesn't surprise me at all, right? It really just comes down to the number. And I think with all things with Ryan Poles, it all comes down to the value and the number and the contract that they want. But, we'll see. We haven't really seen Ryan Poles extend, to my like very many players that were on this team before. And I think that it all comes down to, do you produce, right? And Matt Eberflus already saying in this offseason how almost everything is an open battle. And the fact that they brought in players to compete for positions, that it's not a given for almost anyone, especially after being on a 3-14 team last season. So, Trevis Gipson is going to get every opportunity to succeed on the Chicago Bears team. He's going to get every opportunity to earn that extension. And that is what I love most about this new regime in the Chicago Bears organization, is that it's all based on production. And I know some people are going to get the type, well, what about David Montgomery? Well, I think we've seen now that David Montgomery probably just wanted out of Chicago. But so I love that. And I love that everything comes down to, what do you show this coaching staff? What do you show in training camp? What do you show in ODAs? What do you show in practice, in preseason? It all comes down to that. And the fact of the matter is, Trevis Gipson is coming into the season our other starting defensive end. And if he performs, then that's it. If he performs, he's going to be on this team. I firmly do believe that, especially considering his age, the fact that he played on just a bad defensive line last season. You've now paired him with a player on the other side of that defensive line that got 7 sacks last season. You've now improved that interior defensive line that is hugely important to Matt Eberflus' system. And I do think that Trevis Gipson could be in line for an extension. Now, it's also could be as likely that he ends up not getting an extension for sure, right? And then we end up moving on from him. But I think there's a higher chance than not. I believe in what this defense can be. And that's something that I know that's why I did the reasons to be pessimistic yesterday, but I believe in what this defense can be. And the coaching staff believes in what this team overall could be. And having a situation in which the coaches, everybody is really just looking at what do you prove. Matt Eberflus's exact quote: "We believe in all those guys that are currently on the roster or they wouldn't be here. So those guys are going to compete. And obviously we believe in the guys we drafted. So when you start to increase your talent on the roster, the competition gets better and gets more. And I think it's a healthy thing. You know, the NFL is all about competition. It's all about, hey, we're trying to get these spots and you have to compete for that spot." And that is the environment that we're breeding here in the Chicago Bears. And so Trevis Gipson, absolutely. And that's to say with anybody in that 2020 draft class, anybody, if you go out and perform, right? That's it. If you go out and perform, you then put the organization in a situation to where they have to sign you. And Trevis Gipson, right along with the Darnell Mooney's, right along with the Jalen Johnsons, everybody, right? You have to perform. And if you perform, that performance then should hopefully be rewarded. If it's not, then we'll have a different conversation about what this organization is doing at that point. But the approach of this team, the approach of the coaching staff is everybody, you just got to go out and prove it. You got to go out and play. And so, yeah, let's hope that Trevis Gipson does. I would love nothing more to be sitting here having a breaking news episode in which I'm talking about Trevis Gipson signing a long-term extension with the Chicago Bears, because that meant he performed. And that's all it is. That's all it is in the story there. If we get a Trevis Gipson extension, it means he performed. And it probably means the new look defensive line overall performed as well. And that is nothing but success for the team. Now, talking about success for the team as well, Matt Eberflus also had comments about Tremaine Edmunds, and he said this: "He really takes command of the defensive room, and he gives great suggestions and is very smart. Obviously, he has the size and the range and the speed and all those things that he has physically, but I would just say the leadership stands out." Tremaine Edmunds is coming in to a team where, hey, we know what a middle linebacker in the Chicago Bears uniform, what that means to the Chicago Bears defense and identity typically. And yeah, he's not a guy that we drafted, but that's fine. 25 years old, coming in, playing 5 seasons in the NFL, going into year 6, brings experience that we need on this team, right? And I was just on the Chicago Clubhouse YouTube channel yesterday, in which they asked a question about who's going to be the leader. Are we worried about us not having leadership on the Chicago Bears team? And I said, hey, we got players, and I named one of Tremaine Edmunds. Yeah, we don't have players that are like superstar level, but Tremaine Edmunds is a star in this league, and he's performed every single year he's been in this league. And as I said yesterday, still has room for growth. He's not done perfecting his craft or being the best version of himself, which he's already said he can see happening in a Chicago Bears uniform in this system. So when you have a player that is coming in, taking command, we already have players that showed leadership in Jaquan Brisker and things like that as well, and you add that to a player like DeMarcus Walker, who's been around this league for a while as well, TJ Edwards, who's also coming in and being a pretty damn good acquisition and somebody who's done some things for the Chicago in the NFL already. Tremaine Edmunds coming in and being the leader of that defense does not surprise me. Now, we've heard Jalen Johnson wants to be that as well. He's talked about that. Eddie Jackson's talked about, stepping up and being a leader of the younger defense once we had those younger pieces last season. We have leaders on this team. We're trying to change the culture and change the mindset around what the Chicago Bears have been. That defense was on a steady slide over the last few years. And we hope to now correct that slide and get us back into being respectable, and then eventually what I want is to be able to say that we're the monsters of the Midway again. I just, again, that's just a thing that I like to be able to say about my defense. But so Tremaine Edmunds stepping up and coming in and being a leader in the defensive room does not surprise me. We need that leadership. He's gone out and performed, and the thing that I love about it is that when you look at what he's done on the field, the resume speaks for itself. And that is the thing that players and fans, to a degree, are going to respect, especially in a city like Chicago. If you do it on the field, we're going to follow you. If you give the heart on the field, we're going to follow you. We're going to rock with you. That's all it needs. And Tremaine Edmunds, I think, is going to be a perfect thing to really build that new Chicago Bears culture, and I think fans are really going to appreciate Tremaine Edmunds when it's all said and done. Now, before we go, we got minor injury updates on Eddie Jackson and Darnell Mooney, and this again comes from Matt Eberflus. He says this: "It's all positive, and we expect them back soon. When they're back, they're back. When the medical staff clears them, they'll be cleared." Now, there have been some questions. I think even C-Dub raised it, is that if Darnell Mooney is not ready yet, what's going on, right? But I think they're bringing them along. There's no need to rush them, especially for OTAs. They're vets, right? But by training camp, you want everybody in your building, right? You want everybody to be on the same page so you can start establishing the things that you need to establish in training camp. And it seems like Eddie Jackson and Darnell Mooney are on path to both be there by the start of training camp, which I know is something that the organization should and does want them to be back with. When you have a team that you're trying to go from a 3-14 team to actually possibly going on a playoff run, right, as well as take lead into the division if you can, right? The Lions set the tone in the division, my ass. But with that said, I think when you look at where this team is, not forcing them or not rushing them to be back by now, it makes sense, right? To Matt Eberflus's point, they'll be cleared when they're cleared, and they'll be cleared at the right time. But they're both veterans. They both already kind of know the system. They both know where they fit on the team. Eddie Jackson's role is clear, right? Eddie Jackson was on the path for a bounce-back season that we all needed and said that we wanted to see from Eddie Jackson last season before he got hurt. And hopefully he hits the ground running, and all the improvements that we've made on this team, Eddie Jackson coming back in, being healthy, picking up from where he left off. We've added one of the best coverage linebackers in the NFL in Tremaine Edmunds, who we just talked about, and helping that whole system overall, right? I like what we have at almost every level. We got to see that it comes together on paper, which is the thing that I've been talking about. But what we have in that secondary, what we have in the linebacking core, and what we have, albeit with some questions on that defensive line, we're in a position, I think, where the defense and overall this team, as I said in the last couple episodes, is going to shine and surprise some people. And the fact of Darnell Mooney, here's the thing, and it's going to be hugely important for a couple of reasons, and then some people may agree with this, some people may not. Darnell Mooney, the fact of the matter is, whether you agree with it, you disagree, or you think that it's smoke and mirrors or not, they drafted a cornerback that is basically you, but fits more into a slot position, has played more slot. And that's not to say that he's going to pass up Darnell Mooney. Hell no. I'll tell you what, if a rookie can take Darnell Mooney's spot, we in for some fucking trouble. Darnell Mooney is going to be what he's going to be, and he's going to have every opportunity to succeed on this team as he should. But getting him back by training camp is going to be important because we're still trying to establish everything. We are still trying to establish this offense. And like I said before, I don't want any excuses for Luke Getsy to not have to incorporate everybody in this offense and for us to have an interesting offense next season. And part of that, a big cog of that, is Darnell Mooney and what he's able to do. Yeah, Tyler Scott is great and all, and theoretically is going to come in and be a nice weapon for Justin Fields as well. And it seems like they're building some chemistry already. But it does not replace what Darnell Mooney can and has meant to the Chicago Bears team, and the fact he's going back to a more natural position. We need Darnell Mooney to be ready by training camp. We need him to be ready by that, period. And so hopefully we get that, and we'll see. Darnell Mooney, Cole Kmet, DJ Moore, Chase Claypool, Scott if he gets into that rotation, Equinami and St. Brown. We need our weapons for our quarterback to be there once we open training camp so that we can get all the reps that we need to get in that and preseason, so that Luke Getsy, because like I've said, I know Justin Fields is also on the carpet to watch his development. But if Luke Getsy does not develop as an offensive coordinator either, we got some also problems in the long term there. So we need to see Luke Getsy improve. And for that, I want to see him have everybody at his disposal by the start of training camp. But let me know what you guys think on all the topics down below. That's it for today's daily episode of Chicago Bears Central. Make sure you guys are following the show at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform. You can also send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related because of you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.